Hey, welcome back to another Clifton's Clicks episode where we are getting into some fun exploration towards conscious awakening and awareness through the sharing of my experience and finding things that resonate with you in your experience to help drive those behavior changes, or my story perhaps can create some motivation, inspiration, or guidance for you to take that next step on creating whatever it is that you want to create, whether that be greater health, wealth, a better relationship with yourself, or a new relationship with others, as well as just your general understanding of what's going on in the world. And what I used was the term operating software, how to upgrade your operating software in order to be able to understand the world around you and what's going on in a way where if something happens, you're not sort of going, what just happened? What's going on? Um, you actually can understand it and process it in a much better way, as well as upgrading your hardware with how you approach your diet, lifestyle, how you treat your body, and the things that come into your body, including the music you listen to, the music you listen to, the words, the thoughts you say, etc., etc. And I've been sharing the story of my process from what you might call not very conscious individual, and just a lot of problems, or a lot of things didn't make sense because I came from strictly a logic realm with what I would call like a Windows 98 operating software. And that at various levels that I went using the human body, using the macroscopic view of life, sort of the astrophysics and the universe, as well as getting to the very small part, um, going to the micro, and that's really where we're diving in today, because we mapped out a bit of the exploration of how to take care of your body and the different modalities and where they were good, where their models were not quite on par. And we talked about water last time. A lot of incredible things about water. And if you recall, the fifth thing that I mentioned for water was something called the energetic component of water. And that's really where we get to dive into now, and that starts to open up a lot of cool things. And so, we mentioned the bond angle of water, that of distilled water versus regular water. And there's some other, like deuterium depleted water and some other water where bond angles are being observed. Um, we talked about the purity of water and how our modern contaminants may not be actually filtered out. We talked about the Newtonian physical composition of the structure of the water, like the messy room. Everything's in the room, but it needs to be organized for you to relax, and your water needs to be structured for it to be absorbed. We talked about the nutrients and the mineral content, the alligio-based minerals, and how trace minerals are really important to get. And it's not just the ones that we're monitoring, like sodium and potassium. And of course, those are important, but everything, there's a lot more to the nutrients that we need than just what is currently being monitored and measured by society at large, general society. And then we talked a bit about how important that is to add it back into our bodies as our diet, with the way that we grow food, whether that be produce or livestock, is somewhat of a closed system in which we grow plants and we eat those plants. We give those plants to animals that eat them, and then the way we tend to refertilize the soil is by taking the excrement of the livestock and using that as fertilizer, or making fertilizer in a more industrial, manufactured way, and putting that back onto the crops, what that does is that creates kind of a closed system in which a lot of these nutrients that people aren't focused on or don't realize aren't getting into our food supply, whether it be our produce or those who eat animals. And so those are the ones that we talked about. And then, of course, the fifth one is the energetic aspect of water. And one of the things you could think about is um, temperature of water, right? For those of you who are, chemistry, like what is the specific heat of water? I think it's 4.184. And yes, I remember that from high school. Um, but that means water, before it increases a degree Celsius in temperature, can absorb 4.184, I believe, joules or units of energy of heat before it actually raises. So it actually can absorb a lot of heat without observable change in the water's temperature. And of course, when you're talking about the digestion, right, that was one of the three things that I was seeing were the outliers of what we were observing. One was hydration issue, inflammation, and digestion. Um, you have a lot of people talking about, like, why are you drinking cold water before you eat a meal? And of course, that's a pretty common occurrence here out in America, to drink water with ice before a meal and even during a meal. And a lot of old wisdom talks about how, no, that slows down your metabolism, shuts it down. You need to drink warm water. And so, we're even adding that to the stack of things against us that we're not necessarily in alignment with. And so, yes, of course, temperature matters. If you're drinking cold water and it's snowing outside, I mean, I'm here in a sweater here. It's fall time, and getting to that point where my Southern Californian roots are kind of wondering what this winter is going to be like out here on the East Coast. And of course, temperature matters. And of course, if it's super hot outside and you're drinking boiling water or hot water, that's going to impact you versus if you drink cold water. So yes, temperature is an important consideration and characteristic of water. Um, at the same time, what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the energetic components is that there's this incredible property that water has, um, in that it can take a specific energetic signature of water and of something, whether it be another water crystal or a device. There's just specific energy associated with specific devices. You go with your phone, and your phone emits sort of like, EMFs is a big thing that's coming out, electromagnetic frequencies. We as humans emit a specific frequency. Metals, this is kind of where crystals come in with their frequencies and how they impact you and the energetic and subtle bodies. And even your watch is made, a lot of it is made from quartz crystal. And so your quartz actually has a specific frequency. And so water itself has a specific frequency, and it can be affected by other frequencies. Just like, if you go into a doctor's office and you get an x-ray, you're wearing lead plate on the body. They don't want to x-ray because they don't want you to be exposed to that kind of frequency. That's the same thing that can happen with water, is water can be exposed to negative frequencies. At the same time, it can be exposed to positive frequencies. And so, for example, if you go to a chiropractor's office or some of these cool biohacking spaces, they have very specific healing light frequencies. And that's a frequency that you're emitting your body to, even like UV light tanning beds, right? Like you're exposing yourself to a specific frequency. And that is what your body's reacting to, and you have certain positive things that can happen or certain negative things that can happen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fun. So water does that, and it actually holds those frequencies very well. And so this starts to open up an incredible amount of fun and play that's kind of at the cutting edge of what's been happening for the past few decades, but it's really gaining popularity these days in the West. It's been around with Dr. Emoto, whom you've probably heard of or may have heard of, who did the water experiments in Japan, in which you would say something to water and then freeze it and see how it crystallized. And it formed different crystallizations, which demonstrated that our words had impact on substance, on water. And of course, our bodies are 70-80% water. This planet 70-80% water, as well as just thinking or feeling an emotion. Right, our emotions can actually affect the body of water, and this opens up a whole new atmosphere of looking at the energetic component of not just water, but of reality. And so, if you're drinking water that's been out in the sun and it's the same temperature, it's going to taste different than if it's been indoors at the temperatures, because the water can actually hold an incredible amount of information, an incredible amount of energy. And there is a difference. I don't know if you've tried it, but if you heat water in a microwave and you drink it versus heating it from like a stovetop and drinking that kind of thing. If you had like a cup of tea, there is a big difference, and there's incredible tools and instruments that actually monitor and can show us the difference between the energies that are in one water versus another water, as well as the crystallization of one water versus another water. And so it's really those machines that are really opening up a beautiful exploration in a very scientific, logic-driven, methodical methodical way in which we can go about and exploring just what is this, what's good, what's not good, and how can we address health and consciousness with these different technologies as it's applied to water, as well as to other delivery instruments. But water itself is a beautiful instrument to not just encode, but also transfer these great signatures. And I want to put my nerd glasses on and off at the same time to kind of get excited, because there's so much cool stuff happening. In fact, there was an experiment by a Nobel-winning scientist who didn't win the Nobel Prize for this experiment, mind you, but he was a Nobel Prize winner who then took up this water experiment, and he was able to actually record a strand of DNA that actually had the HIV virus in it, and basically encode a specific message and distribute it over the internet to another water vial that had some DNA that was unstructured, and they played that for a bit of time, and it actually reconstructed the DNA with a 95-97% accuracy rating of what the original DNA with the HIV virus had, which you're going, whoa, you mean you can have water with a specific message and you can encode it and send it through the internet to another body of water, and then that body of water gets encoded with the same message, and then that's where you start to like really get trippy, because us humans are primarily water. So what you're saying is the things that transfer over the internet that I observe can impact me. And of course, we know from a more personal level that, yeah, if we watch a bunch of horror movies, we're going to be a little bit scared. We're going to be frightened. And of course, there are studies that demonstrate that the mere act of watching something, our minds think that we're going through that ourselves, and then we have the specific chemical responses as if we were actually in those situations, as well as if we just meditated on practicing, like they had free throw players, basketball players, who there were some that imagined shooting free throws and those who actually shot free throws, And those who just imagined shooting free throws actually had a pretty similar improvement to their free throw shooting than those who practiced, as well as piano players. So there's many different elements of how powerful our imagination is and visualization, which we'll get to later on. But it also, we know that if we're watching like uh, a Disney movie with all the cheery music, we're gonna be a little cheerier after we watch it. When we watch a horror movie, or if we watch a horror movie, we're gonna be a little like scared after it. What's that sound? Huh? Right? Those kinds of things. And of course, pornography is like the number one thing where we actually release chemicals as though we are actually having sex, right? So there's all these things that demonstrate that just mere observing can impact us. Now, what this is saying is that just specific frequencies can impact us, and that gets into a whole new ball game of playing with frequencies and finding out who's actually studying these from a very scientific method perspective of specific frequencies that are being played that impact you. And this opens up things like the Rife machine, which actually has specific frequencies that is geared towards healing specific organs in your body because they have different frequencies. It's different, like chakras, parts of your body have different frequencies you can impact. And so you have incredible companies like the Heart Math Institute, which is really about getting us from a brain dominant reality into a heart brain coherence modality. And of course, what this means is that we can actually measure the frequency that we're emitting, and we can actually monitor how our brainwave patterns are doing. Remember how I mentioned we might not be able to map all the neurological connections in our brain. 40 Years of Zen and some other super secret stuff is kind of getting on that, but at least we can see the frequencies that are being emitted, and we know that those frequencies are tied to certain um, ways of thinking or modes of thinking and certain centers of thinking. So you're going, okay, hold on, Clifton. You just jumped a bunch. You're talking about frequencies. You're talking about, heart-brain coherence. Give me one step back. Okay, one step back. All right, so water, you can put specific frequencies in. It retains it, and you drink it. Yes. Okay, but does that actually impact us? And that's one of the curious things of it. Does specific frequency water impact us? And this actually goes back to sometimes it's a false rationalization back to the way things used to be, right? Like, oh, caveman, we used to go hunt and eat meat, so let's do paleo diet. And it's like, okay, but back then cavemen didn't eat that much food. Think about it. Like, how many cows are we eating if you're doing paleo? How many chickens are there on your farm back in caveman day? Like, not that many. You're not eating 8 eggs, Anyway, heart out to paleo people. I love all forms of experimentation and taking ownership of your life, including the food that you consume. But the main point is sometimes the rationalization to like, hey, we were caveman once, so we should do what they do to be more natural. But in this case, when we created these aquifers and pipelines to get our water from, there are certain things that were missing from what water naturally contained. And so one of that was the Newtonian, the physical composition of the water. When we put it into all of these treatment facilities and all these pipes that have all these like harsh right turns, the water molecules kind of get shaken up from like a nice structure, crystalline structure, into an unorganized structure. And of course, organized structures help us absorb the water and the nutrients better. Okay, that's one. Two is the minerals from the water going over the rocks was something that we missed, and then three is the sunshine, right? Like if you're getting this from a stream, which of course you got to get it from a moving stream to avoid other things, is sunshine. Sunshine absorbs the water absorbs the sunshine, which is energy. And then the other thing that is also interesting is that there's a significant amount more of negative ions, which improve ourselves on the microscopic level, the cellular level, when we're in the presence of negative ion environments. And so that's why we get a sense of rejuvenation. There's many reasons why we get a sense of rejuvenation at the beach. But one of them is that when the waves crash, it separates out the water molecules. It kind of disrupts their cohesion, the H2O bonding, and so it releases positive ions. Same thing like next to a waterfall, like the water's crashing and you feel rejuvenated. It's because your body's actually absorbing those positive ions. And so the interesting thing too is that in nature with trees and we're running water and there's typically trees or plant life, that actually increases the oxygen level of water, as well as there's some incredible more subtle energy type things, which is sort of like the next phase of exploration in nature that is being harnessed right now by some incredible scientists and doctors to help increase your vitality, which he calls lifetrons and positrons. And now you're starting to get into some very interesting cutting edge things. But the main point is that getting fresh water from a moving stream has many components to it that we're missing when we get it from our sink or when we get it from bottled water. If we get it from bottled water, it's not getting fresh sunlight and it's been sitting around for a while and it's gone through the filtering process. So it has lost a lot of its organization, its crystalline structure. It's lost a lot of that absorbed sun energy. And another thing about bottled water, of course, is the bottle, right? And even if it's BPA free, they're showing like the replacement of BPA. So water bottles leach over time in extreme temperatures specific things that may disrupt your endocrine system, such as BPA. There's other things that BPA-free plastics have that are also shown to potentially cause issues to your endocrine system. So of course, drinking from glass is great, and going to Ayurvedic, drinking from copper or some form of metal is incredible. So that's something to think about, is what you're actually drinking your water in. And of course, you saw me yesterday drinking it from glass with some cool designs on it. And those designs actually structure the water from an energetic perspective. So, with that being said, I will begin to explore why the water itself actually can retain that information. And that gets us into the frequencies we mentioned. But the thing is of course, water molecules were all made primarily out of water. There's many studies from Vienna and Seattle and Japan that showed that water can replicate itself. So like you had a little drop of water here that had a specific energetic code in it, then this one over here, at least if it's closer than 1.5 meters, will replicate that same signature if it's in a higher ordered state. Dr. Emoto demonstrated that your thoughts and feelings towards water, the energy that water gets in contact with, affects the crystalline formation of water. So water can take on different energies, it can transfer it, and of course we are it as well. And so, of course, consuming water is great. Consuming the structured water is very powerful. But of course, it goes, the energetic component is naturally presented to to your body, but then it gets digested. Of course, your stomach has like all the stomach acid, so it explodes. But some other areas which you may not have thought about is inhaling. We inhale an incredible amount of water vapor. When you walk around with humidity, you're actually inhaling water, which is why some people can exist without drinking water because they're actually inhaling water. Um, so you can actually inhale structured, energetically charged water, and then your skin absorbs, right? And when you take a bath, you can be absorbing up to or a shower, you can be absorbing up to 1.5 liters or gallons. I forget the stat. I'll look into it. But your body, when you're showering, is absorbing all that water. So for all of you out there who are concerned about the quality of your water, and you might have a water filter on your sink, or you order purified water, just remember that your shower is another main source of you drinking water. So if you aren't focused on that, purifying that, filtering that, that's coming into your skin and your body. So when you look deeper, which I kept looking deeper and deeper. Okay, so there's this energetic charge. The signatures can be stored and encoded in water, which of course there's more positive things and less positive things, like positive emotions like love, and less positive like anger. So of course we want more love, grace, all this stuff. Yeah, should crystals store energy that you can structure water with crystals? There's something called tachionization process that you can use to tachionize your water. There's water structuring devices that actually create an energetic charge to your water. And by the way, you can feel this. This isn't some like woo-woo thing. You can measure it with a GDV, gas discharge visualization, called the BioWell, and some other techniques. You can taste it, like you can structure it multiple times and energetically charge it to where like you're trying to drink it and it tastes almost like you're tasting soda water, because it's like so vibrant and coming out of your mouth. And so you're playing with it. You're making love to your water. You're playing some good music to your water, and of course, that goes into plant life and how plants, when classical music is played or structured water is used or specific frequencies is used, plants grow bigger. They're more nutrient dense. Their fruits are riper. Oh, by the way, if you don't know that, that's a thing, and there's like dozens of studies that demonstrate that structured water helps increase plant growth, reduce the amount of water it needs, and increases the fruit production on those plants, as well as if you structure the water with specific energetics associated with it, that also amplifies the impacts of that. So, yes, why does that happen? You're thinking, okay, so I'm drinking water, it's good water, it's clean water, it's energetically charged, it's structured, it's got minerals, I'm eating healthy, okay, it's great, but you just opened up a whole new can of worms, a whole new universe talking about energetics. So let me go deep dive into energetics, and then that gets us to the vibrational view of reality. And because when you look at water with a specific frequency, then you're like, I have a specific frequency, these crystals have a specific frequency, and then you start to realize that all of reality has a specific frequency in it. And when you start to look at that, you go, this is weird. What's going on? And that's really what happens when you zoom in on water. Water, of course, you have the hydrogen and oxygen molecules, but it's primarily, when you look at the molecular structure, it's primarily space. When you look at the electrons and the neutrons and the quarks, they're kind of spinning, or they're existing in space. And now there's some really cool research that's demonstrating that our view of how we view, like, the neutron with the electrons spinning outside is actually visually flawed. It's actually pulsing, and that's what we are seeing, is that these molecules are actually pulsing. And that's how we should view elements. And from that perspective, you go, huh. So, okay, yeah, maybe there's these electrons spinning, but it's primarily, we're consuming it, but we're primarily consuming the space that is in that area. Yes. And or it's pulsing and you're consuming the whole energetic field into your inner space. Okay, so now we're talking about space and frequency, which then means if we view that, then potentially you can make the claim that we are all frequency. We are all primarily space, right? Like, I mean, going back to sixth grade physics and chemistry, is like, yeah, we are primarily space, but our energetic charge that prevents my finger from going through my hand. But there's technology and ways that you can impact through frequencies and other things that space around these molecules. And that gets us into subtle energy as well as incredible things like torsion fields and the akasha, the ether around us. So that's where I'm going to leave you for next time, is my exploration into subtle energies and the ether, because remember, we traced it back from, okay, logic, then there's got to be some sort of emotion, then there's some form affecting my body, which then means let me go through all modalities of healing, which then leads me to the fascia, which then leads me to water, which now leads me to subtle energy and the akasha slash ether. And so I hope you are ready for I'm ready, and you're definitely ready for the next level of upgrading the operating software, because we just went through the water structuring layer and the water energetic layer of reality. Now we're getting into the vibrational view of reality. And that's where I'll leave you. Once again, please like, subscribe, add comments, give me feedback. Yes, my changing the lighting or changing my clothes. I am, want to be vibrant on picture. And so any feedback, whether it's the clothes I wear, or the lighting, or how I talk, if you have any questions or any comments, let me know. Please like my video. More importantly, communicate with me. I'd love to hear, and I love hearing your feedback. And join in next time as we explore the subtle energies and the akasha. All right, have a great day. Bye.